Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, folks. It is the one and only V, and I am back with my main man, the one and only John Jay is here. Aceofcoins.com if you want to find him, folks. Aceofcoins.com. Go there for all things regarding asset protection, regarding how to find the right business opportunities, great, amazing ways to create additional income streams for you, for your life, for your family, and for your new businesses. And with that being said, John, welcome back, buddy. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Hey, I
John,
just want to let
lots.
you know
It's a new
what.
year, man. It's a new year.
Well,
It's been a while since we had you back on, and we're approaching the summer. Things are starting to quiet down a little bit, and people are thinking. Some people are thinking, hey, you know what? There's a lot of murmuring was going on in the U.S. housing market. There's people. Some people are worried about what's it going to be like with the tariff situation next year. How's this going to affect me? Everybody's focusing on the chaos and nobody's looking for a solution, John. And we have you here, the man with the solutions, to open up some brains and to get people thinking differently. So with that being
well, I
said,
want to
buddy,
share with you first of all that I just
yeah,
bought TikTok.
you did
I bought that yesterday. Yeah,
nice.
I bought the whole operation. So if you want to sit on the board, I got a spot for you.
I'm in, brother.
All
I'm
right.
in.
So with that being said, I think like what you just explained, I think people are just enamored by the news and they're like on a sugar high. Let's
Yeah,
just say, right? So they're watching all this and going, "Wow, that's all these people are doing these things," and the people watching it don't do anything.
right.
They just show up for work the next day and keep their day job, and that's it.
Yeah,
Because they're okay, they're paying their bills, right? They're not
right.
motivated. So
Exactly.
I, like you and I always talk about, I love with your phrase. You coined this phrase, a side hustle. Not that money is your, the thing that makes your, it's the end all, but many of you may want more cash,
Yeah,
right? Why not have more money than you're already discounting your labor, right? If you have a day job,
right,
it's called discounted labor. You are discounting your labor.
right,
Sometimes you don't have to do that, but many times you just do it because it's easier.
right.
Sometimes you can't, you don't have a choice, but in some cases, you don't have to discount your labor, but okay, so that's fine. Don't quit your day job, as they say. But I want to share with you a couple of things that you can do while you keep your day job and not incur huge expenses with just a minimal effort. You can prepare some paperwork, is really what it comes down to give yourself credibility to then get into what we would call a joint venture, to use someone else's liability, let's say office space, to make yourself some money. And you would also make someone else money. This is how it works in a joint venture. So I just want to share with the audience this idea.
That sounds very, very intriguing, man. Let's get into that idea because this is something that a lot of people haven't even really thought about. I mean, I haven't even heard of this concept either. This is pretty amazing. Let's dive into it. Let's figure out how people can maybe get set some light bulbs off so people could do something really unique here, John.
So the concept to start out with is I'm walk you through the process that would take you just a minimal effort for the purpose of allowing you to get financing.
Mm.
Now, I say it like this because I know many people in your audience are going to go, "What? This guy's going to tell me how to go borrow some money?" Because I'm going to show you that you can borrow money in a way that the debt pays off the loan. This is how people get rich, okay? I'm not going to show you how to borrow money against your house or against your equity and go invest in a business. I'm not talking about that.
Right.
And I'm also going to show you how to get into the situation where you could borrow money, but you're not going to need to because of the nature of the joint venture. So we start with a company. You need to have credibility, but you also need to get protection from, you want to separate some activity, some business activity. You want to separate it from your estate. You want to take it out of your name. It's just being pragmatic. It's
Yeah.
just like having car insurance.
Right.
When you register a company with the state is indemnifying you against liability. This is not about taxes, okay?
Yeah.
You're paying a filing fee with the state because the state is going to protect you as long as you use the company properly. So you want to register a limited liability company. Just start with your state. Unless you're in California, I wouldn't do that, or Illinois or something.
Right.
So once you set that up, you get your LLC registered, make yourself the owner. You would get an EIN, which takes like 2 minutes. The EIN is assigned to the company. And then from there, you get the articles and the EIN. You'll get an approval letter from the IRS. And then I like to give a W-9 to the bank. So I go open the bank account with these 3 documents. In fact, I just did this the other day. I just walked in. In fact, I didn't even have the EIN approval letter, V.
Oh my God.
I
Wow.
was surprised. I was like, I'm going to try the minimal thing. I'm going to come in here like I don't know anything. I'm going to come in here with a copy of the articles, not even a certified copy. And oops, I don't have the EIN approval letter, but I do have a W-9 that I just signed as I was walking in the door, literally.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady opened the account, no problem. In fact,
Wow.
she opened the account and I didn't even put $1 in the account. She just gave me an account with no money.
Huh.
Okay. So anyways, I'm just sharing with you. So once you have that set up, okay, and this is easier than it has ever been. There's no excuse to following this path. It's so easy to do this. I mean, this is kind of like going to the DMV, right, to renew your driver's license. It's probably easier than that, okay? It depends on where you live.
Yeah.
So then you go to a website, and this is so common. It's called listyourself.net. You would just list your company, your LLC name. You can list your home address as the address of the company if you want, or a PO box. That's fine. And you go to listyourself.net. The purpose of that is, now this is not a necessary step, but I'm just showing you how to establish credibility with a business structure for the purpose of getting financing to do what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to show you at the end, the punchline. So you get this listing, and then, and I'm not going to go into the details, but you guys can figure this out. But what you're going to do is, once you get listyourself.net with your LLC and an address and a phone number and a website, sometimes you can do a website for $5. You don't need a website, but you can do one. You want to get net 30 accounts. What that means is you want to set up an account with, like, for example, uline.com. Uline.com sells products for, housewives can buy stuff just like warehouses can buy stuff from Uline. Uline can sell you anything. They're better than Amazon. Okay.
Yeah.
Probably everybody needs something from Uline. And the whole idea there is you're already probably buying some of the things that Uline is selling. So you may as well buy it from Uline on credit and use that credit account properly, and you'll get a credit score. Your company will get the credit score, and you will not need to be the guarantor for that account. Which is the key here.
Yeah.
That's not the worst thing, but you don't need to be the guarantor in an account like that. So net 30 just means you're going to buy a product, you're going to walk away with it. Maybe you're going to take delivery of it, and you're going to pay for it next month.
Yeah.
When we set this up, there's a strategy on how to do it out the door. But anyways, that's the whole idea. So you get your bank account, okay, your public record. Now what'll happen is once you want to get 3 net 30 accounts, maybe 4, but 3. And what'll happen is Dun & Bradstreet will contact your company. It'll call you. It'll send you a letter. And Dun & Bradstreet it's like Equifax for business, okay?
Yes.
Dun & Bradstreet has a Paydex score,
Right.
A credit rating. I think it's like 1 to 100. It has very good credit services. You don't need them, but certainly you can look at the different conditions, but you don't need to spend money with Dun & Bradstreet. But Dun & Bradstreet wants to list your company because the data from your company, including your financial records, if you want to share it, that makes money for Dun & Bradstreet. So that's
Right.
what's in it for those guys. But at the same time, Dun & Bradstreet will create a credit file so that later on, when you want to use your company for credit or credibility, you'll be able to do it. You'll have a Paydex score. And I'll show you right now, I'm going to suggest to you that you have accounting. So that doesn't mean your company has to file tax returns. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about accounting. So let's say you're doing this and it's your side hustle and you're just starting, you don't have any real asset. What I would suggest is that you set aside $100 a month. I just made up a number. It could be more or less. I'd say $100 a month if you want, $100 a week, whatever. You put that money, maybe it's coming from your paycheck. You put that money in your LLC account. Why? So now I have cash flow. Okay. So just generally speaking, cash flow is more valuable than the cash in the bank account.
Right.
Have regular deposits is more valuable to a lender or creditor than just having like $20,000. Although $20,000 would be pretty good, right? Instead of putting the $2,000 in your account, you want to put $100 a week or something like that. You want to have regular cash flow. Right. And of course, more cash is better, but you're not trying to spend your cash. So many people talk about, I'm going to invest when I have money. Most investments that enrich our lives are made with other people's money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. The whole economy, the whole markets today is based upon OPM, other people's money.
It works better that way because other people are suited to take that kind of risk. If you're trying to set up a business, for example, You're not also the lender, or you shouldn't be. If you think you should be, then you missed the whole point, because the guy down the street or the next city over that's running a substantial business like you're trying to do, he's not using his own money. He's using a lender. He's going to beat you every time. He's going to have less risk than you. He's going to have more liquidity than you will. Okay. Because you got your cash tied up and you're acting like a lender when you're not.
Right.
So we get to that point, right? So you have accounting records, you have your articles, you have a paydex score. You're turning something. This is really, really valuable. You guys, I don't know if you've ever looked at this stuff. You just got kind of like a gold mine here. You got something that's a seed that can be really leveraged for something. Yeah. Okay, especially when you have regular cash flow. So now, here's what I want. The punchline of what I'm getting to. You're wanting to get financing, but I'm not talking about a line.
Hey, John, you froze.
Credit. What you want is to work with someone who already has a debt obligation. And let's say you're driving in your neighborhood and you're seeing every day there's this office complex, and it looks like there's some vacancies, or maybe there's some space available, right? So you want to contact the property owner or the landlord. Typically, it's going to be the landlord. And you want to talk to possibly one of the tenants. Maybe you can walk into one of the businesses and see if there's some deal you can work out. So here's the idea. You want to use the office space. Maybe it's something like office space, or it is office space. You want to use it for an idea that you have. Let's just give you an example. So let's say it's a yoga studio. So it's a professional service. And let's say the yoga studio hours begin at 2 p.m. Now, maybe that's not true, but I'm just saying hypothetically. Sure. So in the morning from, let's say, 9 o'clock until 2 o'clock, that space is available, but no one's using it. In fact, the business is not open. Yeah. All right. There's your in, right? So whoever's got that lease obligation, you want to contact that person, and you can use a broker to do it. It looks even better. But what's going to happen is the broker is going to qualify you first. That's why I'm saying to go through all this paper creation, okay? It's real. So when the broker looks at your financials, he will be eager to get you in contact with somebody, because you want to contact the lessor, the lessee, whoever's leasing that property. You want to be the lessee. You want to lease it from the person who's leasing it from the property manager or from the owner. Got it. And so there's a couple of formalities you have to get through. Like, for example, you have to make sure that that's permitted, and if it's not, sometimes you can work that out. Yeah. Okay. So once you get all those set up, then there's some other things like, you want to make sure that the person you're leasing from is not going to pull the rug out from under you. Sure. He's not going to say, get out of here now. There's some things you want to put in the contract. And there's another reason why you can go to an attorney that does deals like this, and you can have a pre-written agreement, and you come to the attorney and you say, look, I want to protect myself against typical things that happen in these situations. Can you add those provisions into the contract? This is how you work with an attorney. You don't just go to an attorney and say, please help me, I don't know what to do. You do some of it. You go to the attorney and say, I want you to do A, B, C. That you're going to get the best results from an attorney. Okay. Also, the benefit of using an attorney is that he or she can represent your business, and you look even better. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're not the one showing up at the meeting. The lawyer is. It's effective. It's not necessary, but it's effective. And it might cost you a few $100s. Maybe it costs you $1,000. It's just something to think about. Okay. So anyways, that's what I would suggest is, so your point here. Now, here's what am I talking about financing? I went through this whole process. I got qualified by somebody right before I want to get into, I'm going to come into somebody's obligation, right? The tenant that's already there is obligated for like probably 3 years or 10 years, however long the lease is, right? And you're coming in there saying, I can supplement your liability with additional income. And basically your lease obligation comes down if you let me use your facility, your property, for a purpose that includes this 1, 2, 3, right? It has to be consistent with something he's willing to do and permitted under the, the facility and all this sort of thing. But you can make a deal like that. So you're essentially getting financing because you're going to step into a lease agreement that already exists, and you're just going to create a smaller liability there, right? So instead of you coming in with a real lease agreement with the landlord or the property owner for 3 years, and you're new at this, you never did this before. I mean, if you guys ever saw a commercial lease agreement, it's worse than dealing with the IRS. I'd much rather deal with the IRS. Mm-hmm. Commercial lease agreements are, let's just say, brutal. Yeah, I
And
mean
they tie you up real tight, man.
they really do. There's
Yeah.
no wiggle room there.
I've
Okay,
had
and
friends who, in the past, got commercial lease agreements, and it was a nightmare to get out of it.
yeah, it is. And
It's
now you
very
can
bad.
get out by, there's certain exits you can use there to get out. But yeah, it is very difficult to get out. But if you come in under someone else's lease agreement, you can have another lease agreement with that person. So that person is still kind of like he's actually the guarantor, right? He's still going to have to pay, even if you leave. You just have a deal with that person. So let's say his deal is 3 years and your deal is 9 months. I'll just make up a number, right?
Yeah.
So what does that look like? That looks like I got some financing for short term. I have a short term liability, but I still have financing and it may still appear on my credit. So that's another thing why you want to have the paydex scores, because most of these organizations will report to your business credit. That's why I say you want to come to them already prepared.
Yeah.
Because this is not your stop, this the end stop, right? If
Sure.
you get a deal like this and maybe it breaks even, let's say, you can then go set up your next deal and you'll have much better knowledge of how to do that. And how many hours do you think that would take? I mean, maybe it takes 6 weeks and maybe it takes 3 hours a week. That's roughly probably what it would take to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Exactly.
good use of your time. Okay. And sure, you can be, I know I sit here and I watch the YouTube videos on what's happening in current events and I say, wow, that's amazing. But I still have to focus on something that's going to, do things for me, do things for my family, move me forward in my career, things of that nature. And so I'm just suggesting that this may be a tool that you can use. This is a step-by-step process that it's so old, right? I didn't say anything new. It's just out there waiting for
Yeah.
you to do it.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a very innovative thing, John. And most people, again, don't think about that. And all it takes is effort. All it takes is for people to just knock out some doors, do put some elbow grease in, and get to work on making things happen for themselves, man. Definitely. But
Yeah, and
brilliant idea.
one of the things to consider is I just described how to do that by yourself. I don't recommend that. I recommend that you find someone to work with, someone of a similar like mind that kind of thinks like you do, right? And
Yeah.
is willing to put in a little bit of work
Right.
and kind of work together on that. Don't do things by yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, you're really going to have a lot more leverage if you're working with somebody else. It just
Right.
so just that's the other, let's say, missing ingredient. Okay,
Sure.
anybody can fill out forms and wait in line and all this sort of thing, but establishing a relationship with someone else, a business relationship, will be very powerful.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, especially somebody that's in there, that's of a like mind, that has the passion or the energy that matches your vision, that understands
Yeah.
where you're coming from. It's a big leg up, and they're out there. There are people that are out there that
Mm-hmm.
again, it's about folks. You have to sell yourself. You have to sell your ideas. You have to sell your,
Yeah.
what you want to do to others so that others could see it and they can assist you and help you and open doors for you. You cannot the days and the years of you being demure and quiet and lackadaisical are over. You have to be absolutely to the forefront in terms of your energy, your passion, and what
Yeah.
you're putting out there to people so they can grasp what you're doing. You have to sell yourself because you're being sold all the time, whether you realize it or
You
not.
are.
You are being sold
That's right.
every single time. Somebody's
That's
getting
right.
closed. You
That's right.
gotta. It's your job to get out there and start closing deals and ideas and selling these concepts for your sake and for the sake of your family.
And if you run into a stopping point where you're not sure what to do, you can call a professional. You can call, not to say that attorneys solve all your problems, but use them as a reference.
Yeah,
Right. You can even work with somebody, maybe a real estate agent, right, that may know some people in town. A lot of them just know how to fill out forms, but still there's some older ones out there that have some strategy, right? They're entrepreneurs, some of them are just employees, but you know you just have to keep moving forward. you know
absolutely.
um, I talked with some clients the other day. I found out that they like my ideas on using an LLC, but they don't like doing the KYC at the bank.
Sure.
So think about it. If you're by yourself, the bank's going to just say, "Oh, you're the 100% owner. You're more than 25%, so we want all your data, right?"
Right.
Okay, they're always going to do that for the signer. But here's what these guys did: they collected a group of people. They got 5 people together, and they listed themselves as on the articles as the owner, right? each have an equal interest, which gives them all 20%, right?
Right.
So the bank never asked them for their ID,
Yeah. Yeah.
only the signers.
Right.
So think about it. There's a lot of power here. So if you get a group of people together like that, maybe that group opens up different accounts for everybody in the group, and those accounts are all nominee accounts, right?
Yeah.
You guys can work together. There's a lot of power there.
There's a lot of power. You're creating almost like an association in some regards.
That's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
You always want to work together. I mean, look at things get done through associations.
Absolutely.
You cannot get things done by yourself.
Yeah.
That's what makes the bar so effective.
Yeah.
It's almost like a gang.
It is a gang. Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. John, what else is on your radar?
Well, I see that our government now is favorable towards cryptos.
Yeah.
And I see that I didn't realize this before, but it looked like Elizabeth Warren was a hater, and she was probably behind all the bank regulation when you're trying to move money from your exchanges to your banks and shutting your accounts down. I think she was behind all that.
Yes.
So that looks like going forward, we're going to have less problems. I don't know. That's what I'm seeing. I think that's very favorable.
Yeah, I see the same thing, man.
Yeah.
I think by next year, because some of the regs are still there, banks are still a little bit skittish. I think by next year, banks are going to be much more favorable, much more calm, because they themselves are going to be start offering these products to their banking public because it's beneficial for them. So yeah.
One of the things I noticed back in the late 90s is when the internet became useful to people. I saw that it was replacing first class mail for a large part. I mean,
yeah.
So why didn't the Postal Service become an ISP? What happened?
Right.
That would have been perfect opportunity. So now look at the banking system. You get Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas out of the mix, hopefully, and you get maybe some laws in place, but maybe the banks need to have facilities where they can take custodianship of cryptos and they understand what that is.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have a problem with that,
Right.
So yeah, I think that's coming. And I was just making the comment the other day. I was at my mailbox, and the Amazon people showed up. These two kids driving the truck,
Yeah.
and I told the lady, we always talk about stuff. I told her, I said, see those two kids? She goes, yeah, they were here yesterday. I said, well, pretty soon they're actually establishing the routes for the drones, because what will happen is that truck is going to have like 40 drones on it, and they'll just keep flying around delivering while the truck's just driving down the street.
Yep.
The
Is that
drones will
amazing?
just be doing this.
Yeah.
No people.
No people. I've already seen there's self-driving trucks on the highways. They're already testing it out.
Yeah.
In parts of the Midwest and Southwest, they're doing it already.
Yeah.
I've seen in China they're doing self-driving construction equipment, bulldozers.
Ooh. Wow.
Huge rock.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, huge rock quarry trucks. You know those big ones, those big
Yeah.
Caterpillars with like the 20-foot high wheels. The big ones, the 300 metric ton thingies, right? That you see them in these rock quarries, and these are self-driving, and they're driving pinpoint perfect, because in China they've perfected LiDAR technology on all their electric self-driving cars. They have
I would
self-driving
think they would start with the smart cars.
Oh yeah,
The small light,
Yeah, they did, and they're right now testing the large bulldozers, and they're doing great. It's already happening. So if it's happening for bulldozers, it's only a matter of time before. The concept, the idea of a truck driving through your neighborhood and launching drones, and these drones are carrying packages, and distributing to that's right around the corner.
So I see that in the near future, and then I also see Zipline, which I believe right now is in Africa, if I remember correctly, or India, and it's having millions of deliveries. Where what it's doing is it has a double drone system, and it delivers medicine in remote villages, basically.
Amazing.
And so the drone flies above the location, and then another drone comes down and drops the package and comes back up so quickly and quietly.
Oh,
it's so
wow.
neat and clean. Yeah.
Amazing.
So I'll give you so let me tell you a personal thing here. So I want my son to do his thing. I want him to go out. I don't want to, I want to help him, but I don't want to help him. You know what I'm saying? I want him to. So he's, in his early 20s, and I want him to get out there, and, so he finally, so the other day he calls me, and he starts telling me that he has a Walmart store.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
And that's why I tell everybody, I said, look, Walmart's selling products, but they make this great opportunity for you to get a piece of the action. Think about it. Every time you walk in Walmart, you hear beep, 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 beep. What if you got a penny for each of those beeps?
I know.
Walmart has a way to do that.
Yes.
Why aren't you doing that?
Right.
You know?
Yep.
So anyway, so
Walmart, Amazon, and even and eBay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Amazon is screwing with the small sellers, so I wouldn't go with them.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That is
Yeah,
true.
that's another problem.
Yeah, that
But
is a big
Walmart is
problem.
very, Walmart has more customers. Walmart has
Yeah.
more traffic, and Walmart people go there. But I'm just saying. So he was telling me all of a sudden he started making a whole bunch of money. I won't tell you, but it's good money. Okay,
Right.
all of a sudden,
Nice.
yeah. Now it took him about 14 months to get to that point because there's a little bit of tweaking and stuff, and there's an aging that has to happen. But yeah, now he's got his inventory where it's rolling, and he could take the money and put it right back in there.
Beautiful.
And suddenly he's off on his own. And the next thing I know, he's moving into. I helped him with a place to stay. Now he doesn't need me anymore, and he's running on and doing his own thing.
That's it. That's
And
awesome.
in the same conversation, he was asking me, "What do you think about me getting a job somewhere?" And I said, "Hey, that's perfect at your age. Go work for somebody. Work your ass off.
Yeah.
But your day job
Learn.
is to make money over here.
Yeah.
So don't have some humility. Yeah, okay. Let's say you're making 10 grand a month and you're 22. I think you still should get a job somewhere because you need to learn what it's like. You need to learn stuff.
100%.
Yeah.
Grinding it out, hard work, suffering, it changes you.
Yeah.
It makes you better. You need to suffer. You need that hard work.
You do. Your children do.
Yeah, it makes
You're
you a better
depriving them
entrepreneur.
of something if they're not.
Exactly correct, man. Exactly.
But yeah, that's what I'm seeing on this great technology. Just, it's just like some of it's like fire. Some of it's like electricity.
Yeah.
You can't mix it with water. You got to be careful.
Yeah.
But it's very powerful, and we have technology. Look, think about it like this, V. We have. How do we live compared to? Let's go back to King Henry VIII. Compare how that guy lived. If he wants to travel somewhere, he could do it, right?
Right.
Even though it's cumbersome, he could still travel. Whereas the people working in his kingdom, they probably couldn't travel.
Sure.
But he could.
Right.
We have better means of travel than he did.
Yeah.
We have better means of communication than he did. We have access to weapons where people in his environment didn't have that. We have access to medicine and food, too much food, as you can tell. There is no reason why you can't succeed in this environment, in this world, and no reason to complain about things when we live far better than the best kings in the last centuries.
Absolutely. 100% correct, man. And we have flushable toilets and running water and electricity. We don't have to throw our poop out in the street, nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so much more easier to make money now than ever before. There's no reason why you should break your back and destroy your health and your mental well-being trying to put together food on the table. We've always said this, John. We've always said that, the poor have the hustle in the United States and the rich have a hustle. The only person that's getting hustled is the middle class and because he's getting screwed on both sides.
It does work that way, yeah.
Yeah, and he's the one that plays by all the rules. And like I always say, it's like, yeah, break the rules, but don't break the law. But break the rules, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez.
You got to think for yourself. If all the traffic's going 10 miles over the speed limit, I'm going 10 miles over the speed limit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to follow the speed limit when everybody's safely going 10 miles over. That's unsafe. Correct. If I'm doing that. So
correct.
You got to think like that.
100%. Very well said. Folks, if you want any more tips, tricks, or how-tos, join the club, the only club that actually matters, aceofcoins.club, aceofcoins.club. You can also go to aceofcoins.com, book a session with John, and he can coach you personally, one-on-one. His coaching services are second to none. Second to none. I have had so many clients, and myself have benefited greatly from John's insight, his acumen, his intellect, and his ability to solve problems where it seems the most absolute bleak and hopeless thing. This guy is, I've seen him pull off miracles like you would not believe, folks. Contact him, aceofcoins.com, aceofcoins.club. It is chock full of useful, executable, and actionable information. With that being said, folks, we're at the end of the show. Have a great weekend. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you, BJ.